Why haven't fans been doing what they can, which means not supporting the business, not buying the tickets? MLB is still open. People are still going.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back to another recording of Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm here with Brianna Ludwig. I'm Jordan Skop. It's the beginning of the year, 2026, and a lot is still happening in the off-season in regarding our pursuits of getting clarity on certain things that are worth investigating and following up on. Since it's the beginning of the year, we just put out letter number 5 regarding the Queens College matter, where the student athlete had contacted us early last year and mentioned that how he was feeling stressed about worrying of some of the players' balls would go over the sides and potentially hit public school children. And when he told me that, I said that is a legitimate concern. Letter number 5 should be going out. People can see Foul Ball Safety Now and see our previous 4 letters, which finally got us an article in the Queens College newspaper. So very nice of the student reporter to put together an article, and people can see that there too. But we're looking for solutions. We don't want student athletes to be in a situation where they feel stressed. They should be able to play the game free and clear. And I think this week we're working on a letter to get out to the Seattle, Washington, the local buildings department regarding a broken bat that came over the nets during the playoffs, which the whole world could see. A player by the name of Jorge Polanco, who just hit 2 home runs, was having a great game. And then one of his next at-bats, he breaks his bat for an infield single. Nobody knew at the time that the broken bat had flown over the netting. And the only way we all saw it together was when they broke to commercial. Maybe it was 5 minutes later. They showed highlights of a few things, including the broken bat coming over the netting, and you're hearing the announcer on top of that saying, "Yikes, look out." And that did not get any comments from anyone on social media. I was very surprised. We have videos of other bats flying over nets and potentially hurting people from 2025. And there's a commercial that I was actually trying to figuring out what I wanted to say today, but this is what I was looking to say. This guy, I think they call him the Mayhem guy. They show his bat going over the net. I mean, he's in a park, and they've been showing this commercial even through football season, so that commercial has not stopped. I've seen this nonstop on YouTube. Mr. Mayhem, he swings the bat goes over the fence and breaks the window. What a bang. I mean, you don't wanna get hit by a bat. Broken bat or regular bat. The broken bat in Seattle could have pierced somebody's heart. So we're gonna try to prevent any bats from flying into the seats in 2026 on all professional levels. So I think it's worth emphasizing that this is nonstop. And yes, on commercials, nobody seems to be putting 2 and 2 together from what happened in Seattle, from these long-running commercials on Allstate. So, we'll get to that. We're gonna follow up. We're gonna write a letter. Maybe we'll even put the Allstate, Mr. Mayhem in that letter that we write to the buildings department, and maybe the Mariners will actually have netting that will prevent bats, broken bats, any bats from coming over nets to potentially hurt people. And we're aware of, unfortunately, of a case of a little girl who's nonverbal, from Tampa. I'm sorry, little boy, comes to the goes to the game with his, with his mom. His mom takes him to the game, and they're in the walkway, and, unfortunately, they had to wait for permission to go to their seats because they don't like people walking sometimes during the pitches or something like that. So, as they're waiting there, she's in a standing area, and, the bat comes over the net and hits this kid, and we learned about this case through an attorney. That was, a while back, and, the family got some kind of settlement, but I don't think it's a good one. And I think the kid gets basically minimum care for the rest of his life, and the family can't really talk about the incident. The lawyers got paid, that's for sure, but, unfortunately, this family isn't going to be getting private school treatment for the child who's nonverbal, 7 years old. So at some point in time, we're going to make more noise about that. And maybe the family, without talking to us, will still know that we're thinking about them. So we're going to get to that as well. That's something America doesn't know about, and we're going to bring it up. So that was sort of a new experience. We learned about this not too long ago, so I want to talk about that throughout the year coming up. So, justice for those people that have been hurt by foul balls. Brendan and I have interviewed more than 80 people, victims, even baseball players that come to us 30 years after the fact and feel bad about telling their own families to sit in certain sections, but never telling the general public. So there was a conflict there, knowing that the rest of the adults were maybe in harm's way with their kids when their own parents were not. So raises a lot of questions. We'll continue to find people. They'll continue to find us. But I'm optimistic. We will pay attention to all things as we learn about what I describe as train crashes and car wrecks. It's hard to look away because when we learn about them, we want to find out more about them and investigate them. And it's great to have Brendan with me for over 6 years, and Brianna's dedicated with me for more than a year. So we're always optimistic. We're in healthy aggression over here. We're excited to bring on our new guest for today, guest host for the day. And Brianna, why don't you take the reins?
Thanks, Jordan. Yes, very excited to have the opportunity to just bring this conversation to life today and put it on the table for people to hear and reflect on and be a part of. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest today, Ashley Serrano Lamos. She is a 35-year-old mother of five, and her family are baseball fans. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, Ashley. Nice to have you. We're excited to hear everything. We're excited for you to give us questions and take the conversation where you think it needs to go.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate what you're trying to do. I like how you mentioned some more current events that are happening. It sounds like some netting wasn't all the way thought out. It was kind of
Mhm.
halfway done. It's not like in some of these cases. I do have a question. Is
Sure.
your idea of putting netting up all along the foul lines, correct?
My idea is people like you and people like Brianna, who are parents, can know when they come to the games, they know where to park the car. And when they go inside the ballpark, they know exactly where to sit. And they don't have to think that within those first 3 hours or within those 3 hours when they're practicing and when the game is playing, that you could potentially be hit by a ball once you get out of the car. And because 10 or 15 balls could be flying outside during those 3 hours, and I think it's fair, like in the woman in Modesto, California, she was hit in the head. Why should you be concerned about getting out of the way of a ball you don't even see coming, but you can't even get out of the way because inside, there's certain sections that you're still in potentially harm's way where we're not action figures and superheroes. So we need to be told, "This is where you park and this is where you sit," but that's never been available.
What about the foul balls that the fans do want?
Right. So for the fans that are looking to catch a foul ball, we can do something as a baseball community and as a baseball society. There's certainly a transition. First things we transition into is you guys know exactly what was happening in the past and what was happening to the present. I think once people get wind of all of those times they weren't informed about the real true reality of finding or catching a foul ball and what price it came with, I think most families would say, "All right, I think it's long overdue. We want the same experience of foul balls and we want to get a ball, but we're not going to do it at the cost of what we saw on Exhibit A from 2019 or other situations where Brianna's finding from people self-reporting their injuries from 2025. What can you do with and compensate for us to give us more balls. I have a lot of ideas about that, Ashley, and I'm sure you would as well, that the young kids will still go to the game feeling like enough people in their group got satisfied of catching a foul ball. We can go there, but it's time to face the reality of but the cost of coming to the games all these years with the hopes and the romance of catching a foul ball, but at the expense of people getting seriously injured. I think most families will be like, all right, now that we know all this, can we finally incorporate some integrity into the game? Let these kids get foul balls, but not at the expense of people going to the emergency room.
Why don't they just sit somewhere else that does have netting or in a higher seat?
We would love for MLB to tell you before you go to the game. Certainly, there's 169 professional fields all over the United States. These are affiliates of the Dodgers and the Yankees, where people go see these minor league baseball games. And they unfortunately don't know where to park because they're not told that a ball could hit them in the head, and they're not told where to sit. We would love to be directed on where to park and where to sit, but that's never been part of the equation. Baseball has been doing business as usual, knowing that there's going to be balls that eventually land like they do outside the ballpark, whether it's on the pavement, whether it's on the car window, or whether it potentially is on somebody's head. Like the Queens College students are feeling like they don't want to hit elementary school students outside the ballpark. And then inside the ballpark, you should absolutely be told where to sit. It's just never been available for us, Ashley.
So I
So
can understand. I was talking about the foul line, and that
That's
moved on
fine.
to talking about child school kids. Those are two separate things. I understand some of the netting errors. I agree that there are some ways to implement that better. However,
Oh,
I
okay.
think that this is forcing ideas of people's safety onto others. I am willing to accept that risk, and I don't need
Understand.
anybody else to determine that for me and my child. So I just feel strongly that
Mhm,
we should do something about better netting, but
mhm,
I don't think we should change the nature of the game. Where do we put personal accountability in this? Where do we put
mhm.
common sense into this? I think that if they were really worried about their safety, I would imagine they would stay at home and watch the game. I understand this movement, but why haven't fans been doing what they can, which means not supporting the business, not buying the tickets? They're still selling up. MLB is
Sure.
still open. People are still going.
They are, of course, but they haven't been told, they haven't been given any common courtesy. You would think that MLB, that's worth like so many billions of dollars, would tell us over the winter months, well, this is really what happened last year, and this is what we expect this year, and the risks will remain.
I don't need MLB to tell me that a baseball game is dangerous. We don't need
Okay.
them to come forward. We need people to be
Okay.
held a little bit more accountable. I support some of the netting. Some of those
Mhm.
things are terrible, and we need
Right.
better netting in certain areas,
Right.
but it's ruining the tradition and nature of the game, especially
Right.
since people have been informed about this. 1913, on the ticket sales, baseball rule, you have
Right.
been warned. Now, is that really a
Right.
good warning? No. We
Right.
should make it
Right.
more available at the time of ticket
Exactly.
sales.
I
yeah,
love it. Exactly. It's
yeah.
on the e-ticket. You really can't see it, and there's never really been a discussion about it with most people. With your family, apparently there has been, but there's still millions of moms that probably have never heard of the baseball rule.
That's their job. It's not MLB's job to babysit. People need to
Okay.
start encouraging their own education.
To counterbalance how they market to children, I feel like the least they could do is do a little bit more and just enlighten us. I think if we had ever done that, I think it would have been on everyone's radar. Now, I'm glad it's on your radar and you're making your own assumptions that you can know the risks My job is to just educate and let people decide for themselves. Maybe there'll be a bigger agency that finally says, maybe we should have learned about this years ago and we would have made baseball move a little faster on these issues. The best I can do is try to have a conversation and tell people about what we know. And when they say things like, we have no idea, then it's like, okay, well, now you have some idea. Then I feel like it's a win.
Think a lot of people aren't aware of the extent of the injuries that happen and have happened to people and their families because a lot of these life-changing incidents where people die or their livelihoods are taken away, they get wrapped up in NDAs once they get their settlement, and then they're not allowed to speak publicly or really speak freely on the incident. Like Erwin Goldblum, whose wife died at the Dodger game in 2018, he came to several of Jordan's press conferences, but he can't really speak freely and speak publicly or to journalists on the matter because he signed that NDA. And then similar to the case that Jordan was talking about at the start of the podcast where this family has gone through 9 years of hell, they can never speak about what they went through or what their child's gone through. They can't speak about the extent of the injuries. And so it ends up getting silenced and buried once they get their settlement. So there's a lot of cases like that where people have been blinded or et cetera, other things, and they can't really talk about it publicly. So I think a lot of people just aren't aware of the extent of some of the injuries or just how tragic it's been for some families.
A lot of people are
Yeah.
baseball fans, millions of people.
Yeah.
They have an idea. You know that they throw at 95 miles per hour. I mean,
Yes.
that's a common knowledge. And we know we want to catch a foul ball. People in the outfield want to catch a ball. They have been informed. MLB did inform them. And they're paying out people. They're giving people money, even though they've been warned. I agree. We need better netting in certain areas, but doing it entirely and taking away 100% of that experience is not good.
Mhm.
And MLB doesn't like
Mhm.
that. That might affect ticket sales. And as
Right.
fans, we do
Yeah.
have control over it. You don't like it, don't buy the ticket.
I have a problem with MLB not being transparent. They have the data, they have the information. It's common courtesy, and it's the right thing to finally start an awareness about it's not a free ride at the game. We want to let you know that. We're not going to keep it in microprint anymore on your e-ticket where you can't even find it. And we're not going to just spring it on you when you get to the game. Be careful of a foul ball. There may even be Ashley, there may be even a sign on your cup holder right in front of you to tell you to be alert, be careful. But we're not action figures. We're not superheroes. We're not going to be able to defend our family. This video that aired in 2019, Exhibit A, we call it from ESPN, it's really a horrific demonstration that you would see certain sections exposed to these laser beams and unfortunately hitting children. No human being should be exposed to that. No baseball player would allow his family to sit in that section, but at the same time, it's business as usual for them. And even in now, in the entering in the 2026 season, I have to call 30 to 40 cities to see if any of them have upgraded. But we've known this since 2019. Why did it take 3.5 years for the Major League Baseball to make an announcement that by 2025, all of their affiliates would extend netting? Because they hit the balls at 100 miles an hour, just like that video in 2019 shows these balls hitting little babies. But they also hit the balls at 100 miles an hour in all their affiliates. They may not be Yankees or Dodgers, but these 21-year-old guys that are trying to be major leaguers also hit it at 100. I feel like it's should have been done. It's so obvious. And why is it just baby steps and piecemeal? It's never been about the money. It's really all about finally putting all the information on the table. Everyone should learn what we missed. Let's move on. I believe there's no integrity in baseball. I would love to incorporate the word integrity into the game. But unfortunately, now I can't because we're following news reports. We're getting contacted by lawyers. We're getting contacted by student athletes about their matters. So, I mean, I love the pushback and I love you coming at it from your family's point of view, but I do feel like a lot of families, if we'd be like, well, what did we miss and what was happening under our nose? Tell us what it was. And then I have an opportunity to present. And then people can decide how they feel about status quo, about the past. and about the future. But
Oh,
baseball's a big entity, and they're very sharp, and it's run by lawyers, and everything that comes out of their mouth, they know. I think it's all about design and kicking the can down the road,
I
actually.
agree on the acknowledgments. Maybe they can be better done. I was thinking about how we all
Mhm.
ride on an airplane and you got the middle safety row. You got to be
Right,
prepared to help and
right,
respond. We need that
right,
acknowledgement on ticket sales because unfortunately, people don't research or they don't know and
right,
they need to be informed. And
right.
so I agree on the ticket sales. I agree in some parts of the netting. But as a baseball traditionalist of the game, I want
Mhm.
my children to have the foul balls. I understand that it's a tragedy that anybody's been hurt. It's a tragedy or
Mhm.
people have been
Right,
killed. That's terrible
right,
to know. But
right.
I looked up my own statistics. That is a less than
Yes.
1% chance of happening. I just,
Oh, much
I'll
less
take
than
my
1%. Much less than
less.
1% that people are gonna get seriously injured. I'm with you there, but at the same time, it's like walking down a busy street in New York. You Nobody wants to know that that week, am I gonna be walking down that street, or am I gonna avoid 6 or 20 boulders coming down from the 40th floor? Nobody really wants to walk down that street. I don't think parents of little children would wanna know that that somewhere in America, somewhere, yes, the chances are low, but somebody's gonna be blasted or getting an interim blasted, and I don't think that's business. That's not appropriate. I'm just gonna stick to that, but we could agree to keep moving on, and
I
I think it's
agree
great
there
to
there
hear.
there should be netting that does not interfere with spectators that are not
Right.
inside the stadium or fans. That should not be allowed. Absolutely. I agree. That's a big one that I do agree with that we just talked about. In I think
Sure.
it was we talked about the Bloomberg family.
The go Yeah,
Bloomberg.
Linda Goldblum.
Yes, that family. So unfortunately that
Yes,
happened in 2018, but
yes,
I was doing my own research.
yes.
MLB teams in response did add additional netting. So it did bring awareness. They did it. They added more netting. Unfortunately, it
Yeah.
still could be better, but they
Right,
did it. And it's on ticket
right.
sales. So you really, as a consumer, should know what you're purchasing.
Well, when you said it's on ticket sales, what do you mean by that?
My research shows that 1913, that's when they started putting it on ticket
Oh,
sales that it
oh,
is
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
risk
yeah.
at a baseball
Yeah.
game to get
Yeah,
hurt.
it
So
used
they've been
right.
informed.
They don't even do the hard ticket anymore, it's on the e-ticket, and it's not easily found, so it's probably less visible than it used to be, and just to get to Linda Goldblum, unfortunately, she was hit in the Loge level at Dodger Stadium, and that was in August of 2018. Now, there's games through September and October if you make the playoffs, so clearly, nobody knew about Linda Goldblum's incident till 2019. So certainly for the whole month of September in all the Dodgers home games, there's about 30 days in a month, there were probably half and half, 15 home, 15 away. So for at least around 15 dates in September, nobody knew in 2018 what happened to Mrs. Goldblum in that seat. It wasn't till till Labor Day 2019, Labor Day. So sometime between August and September of 2019, over a year, then they finally raised the nets. So we do know for a fact nobody was informed about Mrs. Goldblum for the last 15 home games of the year if people were sitting in that same seat. And then in the months of April, May, June, July, and August 2019, it was announced in 2019 that she had died. Maybe it was described what section, but it doesn't necessarily mean everyone who sat in that seat knew that somebody had died there. I just feel like a lot of information doesn't get out quickly enough, so that's why I think baseball's been functioning as a society with very little oversight, and that's why it's up to me to put the clues together and put them on the table, and let all the lawyers in the room and let all the parents in the room say, "All right, we'll take it from here, guys. Thank you for demonstrating to us that there's issues out there." 'Cause it's above my pay grade to tell you, how high, far, and wide the nets need to be, but once particular agencies see, I think, that horrific video from 2019, I think they'll be feel offended that nothing was done in 30 to 40 cities, and it's now 2026. I'll know when I start calling these 30, 40 cities if any of them have upgraded, but it is what it is. We just wanna put all the information on the table.
It's worth noting that when it did finally get reported, it was due to the family actually reaching out to a reporter themselves. So, I mean, that's pretty bad.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
wasn't that
but
many deaths in the game, but it was a reporter describing some injury report and describing the few deaths, and she called the ESPN reporter and said, "Well, you could add my mom to the list." That was the only reason why it got out, and that wasn't until 2019. And then I think a lot of people came over our house, all the media started interviewing Jana and Irwin, and Irwin's been part of our virtual press conference experiences. He's been very nice. So is Jana. She's come to 1 or 2 of them, and she even wrote a book, "Sit Behind the Nets." That's a pretty powerful title for a daughter who lost her mom, and if you could look it up, everyone, it's Jana Brody, "Sit Behind the Nets." So that's, kind of a powerful title for a book.
like I said, I think more solid information on ticket sales so people are
Mhm,
more aware of what they're getting into. Maybe some more standardized netting so the balls don't
mhm,
leave the stadium
mhm.
around, where the players are sitting, dugout, maybe around there. But further down where the outfield is, I want that open.
I hear you. I mean, I'm glad, you're talking about where the home run balls are coming,
Yeah, if where over there where the
when
home
it goes
runs
over the
and the foul
fence.
ball's right at that corner. I want that
Oh,
open.
oh, okay. All right, what's been missing, which I think is also an interesting ingredient, is that this issue has come up, but it hasn't but the fans haven't had a seat at the table. And if they did, it would be interesting because 'cause you're definitely a fan, but fan clubs, that may be an interesting audience to tap into because they never really had a seat at the table, and they were really never presented the news, as I've discovered because I'm dedicated to this for now 6.5 years, looking for permanent solutions that everyone is happy with. And again, if we don't have a conversation, then we're all really left in the unknown. If it's only the three of us, the conversation needs to broaden. I think we can all agree about that. And once the conversation broadens, let the chips fall where they may, as they would say. And I think that's what really it needs to happen. And I'm going to be more aggressive on contacting fan clubs this year and see if I could speak or see if I can meet the group of fans that have been dedicated to their teams. Everyone wants to know, I would hope everyone wants to know, if there's pertinent information that we may have missed. Tell us what it is. And I think we're all of that school of thought that if you have something that we just didn't realize was happening under our nose, tell us. And I'm hoping at least that's the attitude. And once that's the attitude, then I could present and I could leave, and then I could let those local fans at the local ballpark work it out amongst themselves. Other guests, Ashley, have asked us what we can do. I said, all you could do is take a look at what's happening on your local scene, and I'm happy to be around if you need me. I'd love to spark a discussion and then leave. What do I need to be there for? Right? I just have a lot of research that I think should be presented and received. From there, then I've done what I can do, I guess. So that's what I'll continue to do.
So, Ashley, as a mother, would you expect a family oriented sport to have clearer protections in place?
In the instance of baseball, no. I believe in being informed about the what the risk is for my family. I don't leave that to an organization.
Okay, well, this is wonderful. It's great to get a lot of ideas, and that's what I think we did today. And it's good to have a healthy back and forth. And it's a new year, and I want everyone to look forward to more news and more ongoing conversations at Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. And I want to thank our guests, Ashley and Brianna. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.